inside the car and start over. We'll go ahead and take this speaker loose and get this one out here. And we'll have to be kind of careful with it so we don't bust our sticks loose. They're not going to be super strong. I'm going to go ahead and slide these out of the way. Take our speaker grill loose and get our speaker out. Sometimes you have to go back and reinforce these things a little bit stronger. This one seems to be okay. Might need another fork, another section right in here. So we'll just go ahead and take our stick, do it like we did this inside the car. Go ahead and make a small mark on it. We'll cut it and then break it. Notice this one is stuck up but above our trim ring. So we want to make sure that we get it down below our trim ring. You can sand it off, trim it off, however you want to do it. Take our 50 grit and we take it, just scratch across the top of it here, and that's going to cut it down pretty quick. It'll take too much effort to do that. Then we'll just go ahead and glue this one in. Making sure that when we start stretch forming fiberglass, that the trim ring does not move. This is stretch form material. This material is very stretchy. What we'll do is start from the center of the speaker ring and work our way out to the outside. To attach this stuff to the speaker ring, so you just get it in the center, make sure you have everything in the center there, and then pull this back and just go right around it with hot glue. We'll just go right around the edge of it there with hot glue and then put our material back around it. It sticks pretty quick. Still, you gotta let it cool off just a little bit. We'll just take it and flap it back over, get a good smooth area, and rub it in. That way it bonds to the piece of wood and also to the material. There's a little bit of a tricky of a section. If you notice that this area here is going to be coming straight down, we want to make sure that we get it on the inside of the ring and the outside of the ring. That way we get this whole surface area here with hot glue, and it's going to make it a lot nicer whenever we start stretching it out. So we want to get that right there at the edge of the outside of the ring and also to the inside of the ring whenever we got an area that's going to be pulling uphill. Now if you notice, I've still got material left over. It's got plenty of material to cover the whole kick panel. With the ring completely glued in, now we want to start working our way to the outside of it. Do this corner first, and this is the corner facing towards you. The reason being is that if we get any wrinkles we have to pull out, we want to pull them out on the back hand side, because that way we won't be able to see them as good as we would on the front hand side. So we'll make sure that this area here is perfect. How we do that is we just take the material and we'll stretch it around and make a real nice form out of it. We'll take the hot glue gun and put some hot glue right around the back side of this, right here in this point. We just do it a little bit each time. We don't have to do a whole lot. We'll just take our time with it. Now, I'm not stretching it super tight. I'm just getting it tight enough where it's going to pull all the wrinkles out of it. If we stretch it really tight, it's going to break the trim ring loose from the mold itself. And that secures pretty quick. Works really well. We need to pull out a couple things that we've done. Now, if you guys remember the last time we had our cup, we just go ahead and put the brush right inside the top of the cup. Reason being is that it's easier to clean out the cup. If we'll squeeze the cup just a little bit, you can hear it cracking. That means the fiberglass is good and hard inside of it. The fiberglass will pull right out pretty easily, and we clean our cup that way, and then the fiberglass is actually on the brush itself. Just throw that away. Try to clean up some of the residue on it. It don't have to be perfectly clean. What we want to do is put our gloves back on when we start mixing fiberglass resin. We want to put our gloves all back on. Get our fiberglass resin back out again. And we'll go through the same process again like we did with the bottom of the kick panels. So we'll just go ahead and open this up. And we pour approximately 500 milliliters, so we're real close to 500 milliliters. If you look really close onto the cup here, you'll see that the numbers are written over here, and this is 500 milliliters right here on this side over here. What we're going to do is take our resin and mix up our resin to 500 milliliters. On the hardener, we do it the same way. Now, before we used the 3/4, used the 1/4 of it to do our hardener for 500 milliliters. It takes a little longer for it to harden, but it doesn't make it warp as bad. And that's approximately 1 to 2%. What we want to do is take this and go ahead and take the cap off of it and let it drain in to a half. Go ahead and put the cap back on it. Also, make sure that you work in a well ventilated area. Stir this up very, very good. Take our paintbrush now. Take a new one. And pull the plastic off. And we start painting this stuff on here. Where we got to be most concerned at is to paint it around the edges, so have a really good edge, and also paint it on the front face of this around the speaker ring. What we do is we just keep dabbing it in here. Now we don't want to get a whole lot of fiberglass on the inside, but we can tell where we have fiberglass and where we don't have enough fiberglass at. If you look real close here, you can see where it turns light and dark. If we don't have enough fiberglass and we just barely coat it across the top, you can see where it's light. But you can see where we soaked it all the way through and it's dark. So we want to make sure the whole thing is completely dark. It's been about 2 hours since we put these things inside the fiberglass, and you can see that they're all hardened up. For the next step, what we want to do is take the fiberglass reinforced Bondo here, and our box that our quick kick come in, pair of gloves, one paint stick you should have left over, razor knife, the hardener, the white tube of hardener. Go ahead and get on our gloves, that way we won't get it all over the place. And we mix up our kitty hair. We're mixing up our kitty hair. The stuff is kind of thick, and you'll notice that it's good, runny on top, but thicker down the bottom. We'll just go ahead and stir this up. Once we get it all mixed up and it's consistent all the way through the whole can, we'll go ahead and set it to the side, take our cardboard box and a razor knife, cut out a panel out of the box. Get our panel cut out, and then what we'll do is we'll take our kitty hair and we pull out a little bit of kitty hair. Usually I'll try to do just enough to do one kick panel. We'll take our hardener, then take our hardener and lay one stream going right across the top of it. Next we take our Bondo spreader and we'll go ahead and mix this stuff up really, really good. It's really hard to see the blue mixed up inside the kitty hair, but we want to make sure that we get this really, really good mixed up. We've got approximately 5 minutes work time with this. Now we move back inside the car here. Go ahead and get it cleaned out and make sure our kick panel's good and tight inside of our panel. Go ahead and take our kitty hair and we start spreading it around in the seams. What this will do is give us a real nice contour to the floor. The smoother that we put this stuff on, you won't have very much sanding at all to do in the next step. It's been about 10 minutes or so. If it's colder outside, it's going to take a little bit longer for this thing to harden up, but you can still see where it's really soft and it'll actually break apart. That's about where you need it at whenever you start pulling this thing out. It'll make it a lot easier to pull out. Plus, whenever you start pulling it out, you'll see that it breaks loose. And whenever it breaks loose, it'll leave a really nice line to it. The tape is done. We can go ahead and start removing the tape out of the car. Now that we pulled both of our kick panels out of the car, you can see that it comes out and it's very rough, but it's still pretty soft where it'll pick off and stuff. What we want to do is take the outer edges of both kick panels and knock off the really rough stuff. That way we won't have to sand it off, and it'll make it a little bit easier. And the trick behind this stuff is to start sanding it before it gets completely hard. Get our 50 grit sandpaper, the roughest stuff that we have in our kit, and we'll go ahead and we'll start scratching it down. Now what we want to do is knock off just the high spots. And you see how it's not gumming up the sandpaper. If it's gumming up the sandpaper, it means that you're sanding too soon. So we need to wait on it just a little bit longer and just knock the edges off of it. We got both of them sanded down pretty good. Now what we need to do is clean up the edges and the corners and stuff. Now whenever I'm sanding, I'm actually sanding across the top half of it, and it still leaves a really rough edge. But we can actually smooth the edge out, and we can just scratch it down just barely. But make sure that you're rolling the edge at the same time. That way we can get a really nice flat line without messing up our shape of our floor. We got both of our kick panels sanded down completely as good as what we need it to. You can see a low spot right here, and what we'll do is go back with some Bondo and actually fill up the holes. Wherever we have holes at, we'll put a nice thin coat of Bondo over the whole thing on both of them, and then we'll go back and shape it in, and that'll fill up all the holes, and then our vinyl will have something really smooth and flat to lay down on. With the Bondo, we want to do the same thing that we do with kitty hair, is actually mix it up. So we'll stir it up and make sure it's really good and stirred up and mixed up well. Then we take a big chunk of it out. We don't have to pull out as much as what we did kitty hair because we don't have that much to cover. Then we take our hardener and we do the same thing as we did last time. Let's just put one stripe going right across the top of it. It gives us approximately 5 minutes working time with it. Our paddle, most of our kitty hair is off our paddle now. You can just break it off after it dries. You can just break it off and clean it up. Then we'll take it and we mix it up really good. We're mixing this stuff up, it comes up in swirls, and we can see this stuff mixing up very good. We want to knock all the dust, make sure we have all the dust off of our kick panel. Then we'll go ahead and put a thin coat of Bondo, trying to level and not get it on the outside, but level the area. Now we got both of the kick panels covered with a thin coat of Bondo. Only thing we've done is level it out. We made sure that we keep it out of the inside of the speaker hole here, and also that we keep it off the edges on the backhand side here and all the way down to the bottom here. That we don't need any Bondo there because all it'll do is build it up. It's still soft to the touch, and we can scratch it with our fingernail, but it's hard enough to go ahead and start sanding. Now, this is an easy trick that a painter taught me. What you do is take a can of flat black and just lightly dust it, and that gives you what they call a guide coat. And what you do is you let that completely dry, and then you sand all of it off where you can't see no more black. What I'll usually do is go ahead and take the 80 grit and start in one section. As we start in one section, we'll just sand it till the black completely comes off.